And if we partner together in doing that, I mean, what we're trying to do is to facilitate that happening for the churches.
Welcome, everybody. We're so excited to have you here today. With me today, I have a panel of our intake specialists and our clearinghouse coordinator, Shannon, and I'm really excited to introduce them to you. But first, I want to ask you guys to subscribe and to like this channel, to invite you to be a part of the process that we're going to as far as how we want to alleviate poverty within our community. So we're excited to have you today. I'm excited to introduce our panel to you, which I'll do right now. So to my right, we have Robin Fleming, Shannon Wagner, and Robin Keating. I got a couple of questions that I have for you guys that I think would be interesting for our audience to watch and to listen to. And so we're going to get into it. I'm just going to ask the first question. Who are you guys? So Robin Fleming, we'll start with you and just share a little bit about yourself and who you are and what church you're a part of.
I'm a grandma and a mom, and I'm a member fairly recently at Foothills Community Church in Malala.
How long have you been here at Love Inc., at our Love Inc.? 'Cause I know you volunteered at another Love Inc. in Hillsboro.
I did,
so
yeah.
we're going to be a little selfish and just talk about us.
I've been here for 6 or 8 months. Is that right?
Yes, that sounds good.
Something like that.
Great. And we've loved every month of it.
Thank you. It's been really good for me to be here. It's been a good growing experience, and I'm loving the vibe. That's not a word I use very often, but I mean it.
We love that. We'll start using that more often.
So my name is Shannon, and I am a mom and a wife and a Jesus freak. No, I'm a follower of Jesus. So right now we're kind of in between churches. We're just recently discovering the power of going to a church in your own community. And so my husband and family and I have been attending Canby Christian Church. I came on here about 3 years ago. And my first desire was just to want to serve people. That's just a heart and a passion of mine, is to be in ministry. I just enjoy being around people. I think it energizes me and it fulfills me, and it's definitely where I'm called to be. So I consider myself honored to be able to sit in between these two wonderful Robins and just the delight they are and the joy that they bring to just serving alongside them.
I'm Robin Keating. I am the mother of 2 sons, and I have 2 grandchildren. I've been here at Love Inc. volunteered for about 6 months and then came on staff recently. And I think what really drew me here was I have always had this, this deep desire to connect people to the local church, because it's been a good experience for me. I've been well loved in the church, and I want that for others. And so I didn't know about Love Inc., but I knew I had this desire in my heart, and I was trying to find ways to make that happen kind of on my own. And then I had several people tell me, you need to go check out Love Inc. And so I did, and I'm so glad I did, because I get to do the very thing that's my heart's desire. So I love it. I go to New Life Church in West Linn.
I have a series of questions for you guys that are kind of frequently asked questions from people that we are associated with, whether it be church partners, our donors, community members. And so I thought I would just ask the specialists, that would be you guys, who are the clients that we serve?
I think our clients are from all over. They're from inside the church. They're from never attending the church. Definitely low resourced folks. And some of them, just in the time that I've been here, I've noticed many are newly housed. So they're looking for a new community, and so they call us, and we get that opportunity.
So when they call in, like, what is some of the first things that they might share on the phone that kind of identifies them as a client?
Typically, it's individuals who are calling in with a tangible need. So they have need of something they have gone without, whether it be furniture or any cleaning supplies, children's items. It's always the tangible need first. That's kind of the first indicator. But as we delve deeper into conversation, we find it's actually relationships that they're lacking and community that they need to support them during their tough transition, especially moving into a new home or just moving into a new city as well too. It can be overwhelming. So
generally, the client that we would serve here is somebody that actually has maybe a tangible need, a physical or need that they can't supply on their own.
yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how is it that when they call us, do we ask them, like, what kind of questions do we ask them?
What we're really trying to help them do is come to a recognition that regardless of where they've been and regardless of where they're at, they have the potential to make healthier and healthier decisions, to draw on the supportive community around them. You're taking this conversation little by little into deeper waters, getting to know the person as far as they'll let you in, and just hearing their story first.
Yeah, and I think that hearing the story allows us to understand the human element
Right.
behind the
Right.
whole thing.
Right.
And a lot of things that we do talk about here at Love Inc. is the there's two sides of the pendulum, which is independence and dependence. And the healthier life is interdependence, is that individual who recognizes that they are part of everybody's solution and they also need help as well.
And we can't help them do that until we don't have permission to step into that with them until we spend some time with them and listening to their story and really taking the time, finding the questions that allow them to reveal a little more of the story and then a little more of the story, and walking with them in that, as they tell the story in a way that respects them as a person and respects, the load that they've had to carry and the curveballs that have been thrown at them. We work really hard just to understand where they're at and validate that instead of casting judgment, even if we can see that there are some patterns of behavior in one way or another where they could learn to make different decisions and things would go better for them. But you can't start there. And none of us start there. We start by being loved first. And so that's what we're doing.
How much time do you guys say that you would spend on the phone with any one intake or one phone call?
I think it varies on the level of comfortability of the person that you're talking to. I've spent anywhere from 15 minutes to almost an hour, depending upon what they have need of and their story too. Because there's certain times throughout the story where you can just kind of pause and say, this is an opportunity. I would really like to pray with you about this, and getting that permission from them and just bringing them before the Lord. I think that is where a lot of transformation can happen right there. Just recognizing they are not able to do this on their own and do need that help, I think is a really great opportunity. But I can only speak for myself. I know these ladies have different experiences too.
I think one of the things that I love about the process is that when the person's calling us, they are so usually taken back that we'll spend time with them. I think when they hear things like they're more valuable than the things that they're asking for, we really want to get to know them. We want to walk alongside them. It takes a lot away from what they might initially be thinking they're going to have a conversation about. They probably are coming from a frame of mind a lot of times of calling and getting something, a thing. They're not used to people expressing that. We live in a society that just gives you a thing and wishes you well. And so when you tell them, oh, do you have time to spend with us for a little bit? We'd sure like to get to know you better. It puts a different spin on the whole conversation.
Do you find that people get upset with you guys asking these questions, or do you feel like people are generally open to the questions?
I've had mostly open. I've had one, I think, that I felt like they didn't give me a chance to get to a question, to let them know that I was going to be asking some questions, kind of cut short, and they were just thinking, I want an item. But everyone else, once I've put that preface in there, I feel like I've gained a little bit of trust, and they're actually calling, looking for someone that would listen. Mm-hmm. They may not even know it at the time. And so I think once that gets established, for the most part, I have not had a difficult experience.
I've had just a few, but it's by far the minority. I've had a few who stopped the conversation early on and hung up because they were overwhelmed in the moment already, before they had called in, I think. And then the thought that there might be one more piece that they had to give in the process was difficult. But most of people, like you were talking about, they want an ear. They want somebody that actually cares about their story and isn't overwhelmed by their story, like people closer to them might be. And I've been working even harder at really prefacing, like you mentioned during the initial part of the conversation, prefacing, I'm going to be asking some questions because I care about more than just handing things to them, as important as that might be. There's so much more to them. And my hope is that I can walk alongside them in a way that meets their needs more holistically. So often people seem to welcome even that. I'm finding that it's resonating with people. Are you?
Yeah.
Just that we want, that we value them as whole people. And they're glad to hear that.
Yeah, and people need people. We need each other very much so. And whether or not individuals calling in recognize that, I think throughout the conversation, I think they do start to kind of like the light bulb goes on and it's like, oh, I do need this. I do. Even more so, I think, than this twin bed. I need to talk to someone about my situation, about where I'm coming from. And God is always faithful about bringing that around. And so I think we do get a mix of phone calls sometimes about from some individuals who are more comfortable sharing and opening up than others. And that's okay. We'll meet them there as well, because that's where Jesus meets us, is just right where we're at.
You mentioned something about the whole person. And one of our guardrails, one of our philosophies is the wagon wheel principle, which actually Travis Jones, one of our staff members, was able to cover, I think, pretty well. So we'll leave a link to that video in our description below. But can you just share a little bit more, like through the intake and the application process, what does that wagon wheel principle look like?
So the wagon wheel principle says that we are relational and spiritual and emotional and have a material, physical part of ourselves too. And that all of those are important, and that ideally all of those are healthy. And if any one of those areas is in an unhealthy state, then it is going to negatively impact the other areas. And so just like a wagon needs four wheels to roll smoothly, we need all of those areas of our lives to be fairly healthy. And I keep saying relatively or fairly because none of us is perfect in any one of those. But
Well, and I like what you said too. It's not just the clients have problems with their wagon wheels. It's all of us. I have a wagon that needs four wheels to roll.
Right.
And I think that's helpful too, if you can be vulnerable with them and kind of explain to them, especially if their guards are up a little bit and they're not willing to share so much about their wagon wheel, explaining to them, hey, this wheel in my life was challenged in this way. I think just sharing a small bit of your testimony with them brings that comfort level down, brings that guard off, because you're recognizing, you're looking face to face with them like, hey, I'm right there with you, brother. I'm right there with you, sister. I'm not any better than you. I don't have this figured out. We are all going through this together. So I think just even saying that gives them permission, so to speak, to be able to be vulnerable and to share about each portion of their wheel.
And I think part of what we're doing, you mentioned how usually it's the material need that is at the forefront when people reach out to us, right? Which makes sense because that's a very tangible thing. And so we're very aware when we're lacking physical resources, right? Money or food or clothing, whatever it is. And if we're caught up in our lack in that area, then we can't even think about the health of our relationships or the health of our relationship with God, because we are in crisis. We're in survival mode. And so we get to kind of leverage that. And I don't want to overstate that, but we get to step in and work to help bring some relief in the physical arena, right? So that wheel isn't quite so flat. And then there's a little more space, which we're then trying to lead people into to think about those other wheels. Because then if they can pump some air into that spiritual tire or or, their relationships, then they'll have more capacity then to turn around and address their physical needs in even better ways.
What's some of the questions you ask in the intake process that kind of opens up that individual to share more?
So one of the questions we're beginning to ask more is, who helps you? What are some supportive relationships that you have in your life?
I think in that question also, what's interesting is sometimes people can't think of anybody, and you get to walk alongside them and help them think of people, and they go, "Oh, I never thought about asking that person for help." Or I hear it, they don't want to bother them. I hear that quite often, even with parents, older parents not wanting to bother their children.
Or people have kept some of those harder struggles that they have private, because they're not feeling ready to be vulnerable with other people in their world. And yet we're asking them to offer us, the names of a couple of people who know where they're at. And sometimes people don't have, once in a while, people don't have those names because they really have held this pretty close to their chest, which, again, is common for us as Americans, I think, to think we have to pull ourselves up by our own bootstrap and demonstrate our own strength. And we look bad. We think we look bad if we can't do that. And so...
And I always think it's fun too, answering the phones, love in the name of Christ. I think so many people mistake us with Love Incorporated, which is always a fun light bulb moment when they realize, oh, that's your real name. Yeah, we're in the name of Christ. We partner with local churches, and that is a huge part of our spiritual wheel that we like to encourage clients to pursue the connection that the church supports too, and the community that the church has already developed for them. And so having that partner list, those churches to be able to refer people to, I think is gold here.
From what you guys have experienced this past 6-8 months, what has been your own personal Christian growth while being here?
I love how it's given me an opportunity to practice articulating the love of Christ. Because to just walk into situations, I was very, I would say, shy in some ways if I was in a group of people, just to open up a conversation even, or it helped me get over the thought that they're not interested in what I have to share. And it's really helped me. So I tease, but I actually had a situation where I was in a public setting. It was a bunco game, but I just automatically walked up to somebody, a complete stranger. This is totally not me. And I just went, "Hey, I'm Robin, and how come you're here today? And what brought you to this? Who do you know?" Just like I would here saying, "Who referred you to Love Inc.?" And it entered into this great conversation, and they ended up asking me what I do, and I ended up being able to share a little bit of Christ with them. And I never would have thought that opportunity, and it's just made me more comfortable, even at church, to go up to people and make sure that they feel comfortable and that they feel loved. It just starts to instill that in me more and more.
I love that. The phrase that came to my mind is that what you're sharing is practice makes perfect. And often we want to be perfect before we practice. And I think that just having the opportunity here to be able to be on the phone with somebody in almost a very non-threatening way, because they are calling us for resources that we have through our church partnership. So it allows a lot of opportunity for discipleship making.
I think it's actually tapped into the scripture, which tells us to go and make disciples. And so that resonates within me. I know that inner light that the Lord gives all of us when we find him is given an opportunity to shine here and shine through the telephone, which is really kind of an interesting process. But I'm so very blessed by those conversations with clients, because I think they're in their own element when you're on the phone with them. They're at home, they're in maybe their pajamas, they're relaxed. So I think that gives kind of an opportunity for us to speak into their life, just where they're at as well. But for me as a Christian, to be able to share the gospel with them, to be able to pray with them, it is such an honor to have those opportunities. And it really does fulfill that inner light of mine. And it just makes me feel all warm and cuddly.
it has increased my compassion for people who are in desperate need. I just am more aware of the the number of obstacles that people can face in trying to move into healthier situations and trying to climb out of really hard relationship patterns, destructive relationships, struggles with finances and so forth. And it's not about like riches is not the answer. Wealth, so I'm not saying that, or that problems are a lack of virtue, but just realizing that when people are trying to make different decisions and are trying to move forward in ways where their lives don't feel so chaotic and full of crisis, that they are facing an awful lot of hurdles to do that. And that, for me, for my compassion for people, that's been an important realization.
Part of our closing, I just want to kind of get your guys' last thought. Anything that you would want to share?
I'd say if you're interested in volunteering, that you should know that you're going to be trained, and then you're going to be walked with while you're doing, and then you'll get more training. You're never left alone to try and figure things out. That was really important to me when I first started volunteering. And then it's all covered in prayer on top of that. So it's a good, safe place to volunteer and feel comfortable.
I'm just thinking that if you're wondering whether it would be worthwhile to partner with us as a church, Jesus called us to go out into the world. He called us to love our neighbor. God has forever spoken about the importance of taking care of the fatherless and the widows and those that are needing justice. And like for pastors of churches, for elders of churches, you're wanting to figure out how to do this and how to help your church membership be more engaged with the community. And if we partner together in doing that, what we're trying to do is to facilitate that happening for the churches. So please come.
And I think just if you have a desire to serve and you know that you're created for more than what you're doing, I think this would be a great opportunity to be able to serve here alongside individuals. And so I love rubbing shoulders with the volunteers that serve here. It's such an honor. And it really does. I think we have a sense of family too, and we have fun doing it as well. I think if we didn't have fun, we'd be doing it wrong. But it is fun to volunteer, and it should be fun to bring people before the throne, and even more so just to hear their stories. So if you have a listening ear, if you're the kind of person that can project a warm hug through the telephone, come see me.
Great. Well, thank you guys again so much for this. I think this is going to be very helpful to our community, very not just informational, but educational to those who are interested in what we do here at Love Inc. and just how you care for our community members. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the individuals on the other side of that phone call as well. And so, again, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Stuart.
Thank
It's
you.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for watching today. I really appreciate your time spent with us. If you have more questions about Love Inc., about the things that we do here at Love Inc., we would love to answer those questions for you. Hopefully, you've been able to learn a lot from us today and this wonderful panel. But if we'd also like to have you guys subscribe, obviously like this and share this episode with other friends of yours. And if you have any other questions, you can leave those in the comment section, and or you can email us directly as well. You guys have a wonderful day. God bless.